to our Sunday morning meditation service. Today we have Marcia Jordan and Louis Jordan playing.
Johnson. Marcia Johnson.
Oh, Johnson. All right, it's the J. Right.
Formerly Jordan.
Yes. And so we're going to be doing a call and response. And I
She's my mom's, but she changed last names one letter only. Basically.
She did marry somebody else. It wasn't that she changed it on purpose. It was... Okay, so the word for today is peace be still, all is well. Today I lay a foundation stone in the house of peace. I understand each person has a role to play in establishing world peace, and I am willing to do my part to help bring it about. I send thoughts of love, healing, and assurance of the divine presence and power within me, just as it is with all people. Holding the world's people in my heart, I affirm, you are love, you are peace. All is well. Peace be still. Okay. You are in the wind, in each twinkling star, you are all around me, you are never far. And my soul keeps singing. Oh, divine, all I want is you. Oh, divine, all I want is you. Oh, divine, all I is you. You are in the desert. You are in the sea. Dancing in the grasses, whispering in each tree. And my heart is singing. Oh, divine, all I want is you. Oh, divine, all I want is you. Oh, divine, all I want soul keeps singing. Oh, divine, all I want is you. 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 Is you. Is you. Is you. Oh, divine, all I want. Oh, divine, all I want is you. Is you. Is you.
Good morning, everyone. Let's begin today to consider the universal truth we study in unity. Let us consider its ancient origins. 1,500 years before the birth of Christ, Moses led the Hebrew people out of bondage in Egypt to the promised land. The destiny was the promised land. They were in the wilderness for 80 years. Those are symbolic numbers being used because the entire story is symbolic. And I think most of you are aware of that. But after Moses led everyone into the wilderness and received the 10 Commandments from God and related them to the people, it was at that time that he also finally came to reveal this universal truth. Can we have this first PowerPoint, please? This is in Deuteronomy 31, 11 to 14. For this commandment, which I command you this day, is not too hard for you, neither is it far off. It is not in heaven, that you should say, who will go up for us to heaven and bring it to us, that we may hear it and do it. Neither is it beyond the sea, that you should say, who will go over the sea for us and bring it to us, that we may hear it and do it. But the word is very near you. It is in your soul and in your heart, so that you can hear it and do it. But the word, the life-transforming word, is in the heart of everyone, willing to hear it and then express it. To hear it and express it. 1,500 years later, Jesus related the same thing in a number of ways, in many symbols and many parables, but directly, Jesus said, don't look outside yourself for the peace you seek, or the love you seek, or the happiness. Don't look outside yourself, for the kingdom of God, which is the consciousness of God, the presence of God, the Son of God, is within the midst of you, within you. So, all of you are looking outside yourself to acquire this peace, this love, and this happiness is actually futile. The universe is set up in such a way for us to finally tire of the seeking in the world and then begin to acknowledge that still small, almost imperceptible voice of God. Think about that, the way it's defined. The almost imperceptible voice of God, which is in your heart, that you can hear it and obey it. So that's the universal truth. Why is it necessary for it to be repeated down through the ages? Because although we are divine souls, we enter the world of grievous deception, illusion, lies, all developed on the concerns and fears generated by the lost, who have become so separated from that guiding impulse in the heart, so separated from the guiding impulse of the heart that they do not acknowledge the effects of their deception in their own lives and in the lives of those they deceive. They do not acknowledge or feel it. At least they attempt to, not feel it. But you can't escape. You cannot escape. Not with all the drugs, not with all the alcohol, not with all the counseling from uninformed, unenlightened counselors. You cannot escape self-betrayal, which brings anxiety in the form of guilt and fear, which is self-betrayal. So, to this whole idea of being born into a world of deception illusion. Many ideas and truths were given by the masters. Jesus in the Gospel of Thomas is quoted as relating this parable. Can we have this on the PowerPoint, please? The kingdom, which is the consciousness of the love, peace, and happiness you seek, is like a shepherd who had 100 sheep, and one of them went astray, which was the largest. He left behind the 99, he sought for the one until he found it. Having worn himself out, he said to the sheep, I love thee more than the 99. The kingdom is like a shepherd who had 100 sheep. One of them went astray, which was the largest. He left behind the 99, he sought for the one until he found it. Having tired himself out, he said to the sheep, I love thee more than the 99. That's an interesting parable about sheep, because there is a certain accepted consciousness that sheep have. They flock together. And whatever one or two or three may do, the others follow. But here's one that escaped the consciousness of the sheep. One broke from that. It's not too difficult to interpret such a parable, knowing that breaking from the standard consciousness of the world, breaking from the standard thinking of the world, based on illusion and deception and separation, breaking from that, breaking the mind from a belief in that approach to the happiness, love, and peace that is sought. Breaking from that, because it fails. And it fails utterly, time and time again. And the largest sheep is the one most expanded in awareness, that leaves the thinking of the world. And then God, who is the shepherd, you are the one I love more than the masses. You have broken free of the hypnosis of the illusionary world. And you shall come into love and peace and happiness that the world simply does not know and cannot understand. Before I ever heard of this idea of there being another level of consciousness that one could attain to find happiness, I was already breaking in my youth. I was already breaking from the consciousness of my peers. Because my peers, when I was a teenager, 14 years old, 15, all the way up till the time I was 17 and driving, because I remember doing some of this while I had a car. We were doing breaking and entries to try to get ahead in life, make money in some illicit way. But in that course of events and experiences, I began to realize that my peers were ignorant, stupid, really. And the things that they did were self-defeating because they were too ignorant to understand the consequences of that. I'll give you one example, but I've given a lot of them over the years. You've heard me give a couple of examples of our ill-gotten gains in the break-in and entry world. But we all hung out at a pool room in a ghetto area of Union City. And one particular, in the wee hours of the morning, we broke into a sweater factory. We always broke in to try to find money, but we never could because they had a safe. And then if you want to read the story about the day we were ready to take a safe, just read my book. But before that, we broke into this sweater factory, and whenever we couldn't find any money, which was almost always, sometimes we found $1 or something pinned to a cork board in the office of somebody. But, so we took merchandise and we took sweaters from this factory with the hopes of selling them to our other characters that we hung around with. So we all took sweaters like 2 or 3 a.m. in the morning. And the next day, we were at the pool room, and 2 police cars pull up and they come in to the pool room and arrest the 2 guys I did the break-in and entry with. They were both wearing brand new black V-neck sweaters. So I knew enough at that point. I had really expanded my awareness to the place where I understood it's not a good idea that the very day that you have stolen those sweaters to wear them in public, especially to the pool room. So, and maybe it was the fault of the parents, because the one guy's name was Pudgy Beatencap. All right, that's not the kind of name that you get through life easily with. So it could have been the cause, cause of a lot of his problems. So, long before I was aware of the universal truth that there is a life worth living, a life worth seeking, a life worth having, which requires new disciplines of the thinking process of the mind. Before I knew any of that, I was already breaking ties with the thinking of my peers. And that's what the first step in spiritual development is all about. Even if we are only minutely awake, can we not see the insanity of the world all around us? And you look at TV these days with the commercials that they have, and the commercials are all about taking some drug for your, your problems, your diabetes, your asthma, on and on and on and on. How insane is a world that doesn't really begin to acknowledge the necessity to spiritualize and make powerful your immune system, instead of trying to fix it by further, alienating it with all these drugs that make something happen chemically in your body. And then you get the side effects of that. And it's amazing because I listen to the side effects of some of the stuff that's supposed to be helping you either get some sleep or helping you get rid of your anxiety or, you listen to the side effects. Nausea, diarrhea. It goes on and on and on to the point where your eyesight can be lost in the process of taking this drug, or a big lump in your throat would indicate to you want to stop taking the drug, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But do you understand what has happened to the world? The world has lost its touch with its truth, its self, its real nature. the nature that we should be sharing on this planet and in every basic place of life. It's lost. Something terrible has happened to the thinking of the human species. And greed has entered into their consciousness with the illusion of separation from their family, their brothers, their sisters, and all creation itself, with no regard whatsoever for the other living life forms that they have to deal with and that they rely upon for life. There's no conscience because there's no seeking to know the true self of being. There's no conscience. And so we will kill ourselves by virtue of our own ignorance of the truth. And it's just, I watched the Academy Awards. There was at least 2 major commercials, which cost, $1 million or $1.5 million for every 30 seconds, to make sure they kept COVID alive and fearful in the minds of the human race. See, they're running out of steam. And they don't know how to keep their pockets lined unless they keep selling these vaccines and these booster shots. If there wasn't so much chicanery involved in the machinations of these corporations, not just the pharmaceutical corporations, but the oil corporation, it's always cheating. Cheating. Because why? Because money has become the god of the unenlightened. So cheating is what they do. And what can we do? The largest sheep will begin to withdraw from the manipulations of the world. What is it they really want? The corporations, they have think tanks that sit around thinking how they can cheat us. The corporations, they don't think in that terms that we're cheating. They don't think that. They think we're doing what's right. I mean, life's the capitalistic system. You get what you can, however you can. It's okay. Everybody does it. They sit around figuring how to keep us hypnotized from recognizing the still small voice within that would guide us out of the herd mentality. But we must do that. We must, through some type of practice, wean the mind from its first fearful leader. So it's not going to be coming with signs outside of us. We're not going to gain it from the world. Can we have this next PowerPoint, please? The Door to Everything by Ruby Nelson says, nevertheless, it is these old beliefs in mixtures of good and evil that have oppressed the Christ spirit and kept you from being exalted to my kingdom long ago. She writes in the first person of God, as God. The practice has been to accept whatever ideas you are exposed to accept the ways of the ancestors, more or less, and question them not at all. This in spite of the fact that Jesus revealed the revolutionary pathway of independent thinking. the pathway of aligning your thought forces with the forces of creation. In spite of the fact that Jesus revealed the revolutionary pathway. And what did he do? He stood out and away and above the thinking of the status quo world in which he was born. And to them, he was breaking their law. You should know better than to heal on the Sabbath. No work is to be done on the Sabbath. Here's what he said. Try to get this now. This is not high mystical stuff. Jesus would say to them, which of you, having a son that falls into a pit on the Sabbath, would not pull him out? What is he appealing to there? How is Jesus arguing his point right there? He is saying to the Pharisee, the hypocrite, reach inside yourself. What is true? The hypocrite has to search his own conscience and say, you know, it's only right to pull my son out on any day. And it's only right to heal on any day. And who made these laws that you cannot do that and be right with God? Do you see? The masters of life are reaching for us and saying, return to the golden silences of your prayer and meditation. Let that voice that is your true nature speak to you, and you will know the truth of all the limitations, the fears, the machinations, the deceptions that take place in the world in which you were born, and you will transcend them and come to true life. That's our calling. And all these masters have ever done have tried in every possible way to reveal the truth of man's divine nature. Align your forces with the creative forces of life. Do you believe that through that process of taking time to quiet the mind from the ever incessant thinking of gaining from the worldly perspective, you quiet the mind? Do you believe it's possible that by quieting the mind, you could eventually end all of the beliefs in COVID, all of the beliefs in diabetes? You know why? Because once you're quieting the mind, the still small voice of creation, which is God, knowing exactly what is necessary and needed in every given life, in every given moment, at every given time, knows, will speak to you and say, you have to eliminate this from your diet. You have to do this if you want to find your way back into health. Don't take any more of those drugs. As a matter of fact, Myrtle Fillmore was so blatantly against taking any kind of medication that in her letters to those that were sick and dying, she would say, stop it. You need to find the voice of life. Stop giving in to the voices of death. Be still, be still, be still, quiet. Stop reaching for that which can never bring you happiness, health, peace, and understanding. Take the time away from that to be still and tune into your higher self. You see how singular it is, in a sense, because gathering a lot of people together to agree who are still not yet enlightened is a very difficult process. But A Course in Miracles will speak to that in this way. So look at what I've said about this one sheep, the largest, must be more expanded in awareness. Breaks from the standard status quo sheep consciousness. And all it's talking about is withdrawing from that and finding your way back into an alignment, a oneness with creation itself. So that you become an emissary of the light of true life and wisdom. So we have this last PowerPoint. The heading on this from the workbook is My Salvation Comes from Me. When you realize that all guilt is solely an invention of your mind, you also realize that guilt and salvation must be in the same place. In understanding this, you are saved. The seeming cost of accepting today's idea is this. It means that nothing outside yourself can save you. Nothing outside yourself can give you peace. But it also means that nothing outside yourself can hurt you or disturb your peace, or upset you in any way. Today's idea places you in charge of the universe where you belong because of what you are. This is not a role that can be partially accepted. You have tried to do the opposite, making every attempt, however distorted and fantastic it might be, to separate healing from the sickness for which it was intended, and thus keep the sickness. Your purpose was to ensure that healing did not occur. God's purpose was to ensure that it did. In short, the guilt, you see now, the unenlightened will run with the first line, onward, into the death. That the guilt and the salvation are in the same place in your mind. So they're going to try to be done with the guilt and just carry on in the same mean, manipulative way of cheating and lying, and then say, I shouldn't be guilty for that. But there was enough of you here to take this with you. The guilt is referred to in A Course in Miracles throughout. Comes from self-betrayal. And you cannot be true to yourself and not be true to every other one. That's it. That's true. If you are truthful, you cannot be untruthful to any other one. And so the guilt it's talking about is self-betrayal. You are betraying the truth of your interconnectedness with life. And so we must practice the presence of the intelligence that gives us life and breath so that we can find our way into that consciousness which is called the Promised Land. We're still in the wilderness. That consciousness which is called heaven. That consciousness which is called peace without compromise. That consciousness which is called the love that heals. So we'll do that again today. We'll start with our bowl, get in touch with this. Let the mind relax and rest from its questing. And work with this mantra to hold the mind gently in the truth. Bring the mind into this mantra. Everything I look upon, everything I see is only my consciousness revealing me. My salvation comes from me. Everything I look upon, everything I see is only God waiting for me. My salvation comes from me. Everything I look upon, everything I see is only my consciousness revealing me. My salvation comes from me. as we go forth from this meditation to those places we occupy in time and space. Let us go forth with a greater determination to be awake, for this opportunity in every moment. We give thanks. To this we say, Amen. We will take an offering for unity now. As we're preparing to do that, I'd like to remind you that are watching online, you can donate in any number of ways to Unity of Boulder. And you can scroll down, I believe, if you're watching this on our website, to a place that says donate. So as we bring to mind that financial gift we'd like to make to Unity of Boulder, let's bless it with this offering prayer. Divine love through me blesses and multiplies all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive, because I give. And so it is. Join me now, please. We dedicate this tithe to the will and the work of the Spirit of truth, the Spirit available to each of us, the Spirit that joins all of us. We dedicate this tithe to the victory of the Spirit of truth. Amen. Well, our choir is filling out. The music has come together. It's magnificent. We are going to have an amazing Palm Sunday and Easter service, and the choir will be sharing the most incredible music. And the congregation will be sharing it too, because is going to be the most sing-along Easter service we've ever had. And so if you want to be part of that, and maybe you even may want to try to get a solo in this fantastic choir that's going to be sharing that music on Easter, show up on Tuesday night at 6:30. Make it your business to do that. You'll find another way to express the creative joy of being alive and being in touch with what is truly valuable. And we will have our group meeting after the service here on the dance floor in Fellowship Hall. You can stop and pick up your refreshments, sit in on the group. You can ask any questions or talk about anything you'd like to talk about regarding this service or unity in general. And Santisha will be officiating at the next service at 11 o'clock. And I do believe that Shad is going to be here, the leader of, he's the CEO and leader of Unity Worldwide. Will be here next week to speak at Santisha's service. So, to all of you, have an incredible, awake day of peace. Potluck today. I didn't know anything about it, neither did you. Okay, if we're having a potluck today after the second service, yes, bring something to eat. And that doesn't mean you have to bring a big deal. You can bring a dessert, or you can bring a salad that you can pick up in one of these supermarkets. But do show up, because it's a place where you get the opportunity to meet other people who are on the path with you, and you get to discuss really interesting stuff. So do that, and I'll see you all at the potluck following the second service.